Mike, check 1 2 1 2. Happy Halloween to everybody out there, man. I had to check in the afternoon. Well, good morning, LA. This is gonna be an LA show, man. No disrespect to the people out there on the East Coast or anywhere else out there. Man, this is a celebration. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers beating the New York Yankees. So I'm sure Mad Max has a whole bunch of shit to give Jay Short, but we not only got a December 13th release date for Snoop Dogg's Missionary album that they've been talking about for years, totally produced by Dr.Dre, but we actually got a track list as well. Now, I know we normally go on live on Monday. The weekend rhyme is normally on Sunday, sometimes Saturday, whatnot, but I felt like it's Halloween. I'm over here excited about it. I think that I had to tap in and chime in with you guys early to talk about this track list, this album cover, and this collaboration, man. Because to be honest with you, I've always felt like Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre are the greatest rapper producer combination in hip hop history. I mean, hands down, in my personal opinion, they may not have the wealth of work that some combos have, but if you want to talk about the quality, they are very, very tough to beat. So, saying all that to say, I was very excited about Common and Pete Rock coming together. I was very excited about Q-Tip and LL Cool J coming together. But I think this, for me, is the most excited I've been about an album release since the start of our show. Like, the expectations for me are still through the roof, even though Snoop and Dre, 30 years later, getting back together. I don't expect it to be doggy style. No, I don't. But with Dr. Dre being considered as our GOAT producer in hip hop and one of the greatest producers of all time, I do expect, a lot, a whole lot. But these two together, it's magic. Now, do we have the track list? Michael Brown said the track list doesn't look good. What were we looking for? Sting and Jelly Roll. We got features from Sting and Jelly Roll. Do we have the track list? Producers in the back. I got Ron back there in the back. Shout out to RKY in the building, jumping on live for me. Happy Halloween to you as well, George. Happy Halloween. I don't know if everybody's going to catch this live because I know people probably at work, people got all this stuff that they're doing. Catch up with this on the replay, if anything. That's why I just wanted to check in. Do we not have the track list to put on the screen? If not, I could just pull it up on my own real quick. Oh, there we go. All right. So they did decide on 15 tracks. I know there was a debate there in their camp. At least that's what Dr. Dre said. So I'm not a big fan of the album cover. We're going to get to that in a second. So the first song is called Foreplay, featuring BJ the Chicago Kid. He's on here a few different times. Shangri-La, number 2. And then we got Out of the Blue, featuring Dr. Dre and Alus. Then we got Hard Knocks. Then we got Gorgeous, featuring Janae Ayako. Then we got Last Dance with Mary Jane, featuring Tom Petty and Jelly Roll. I'm going to get back to that one. Then we got Pressure, featuring Dr. Dre and Kane. Then we got Another Part of Me, featuring Sting. Then we got Skyscrapers, featuring Method Man and Smitty. That should be very interesting. Then we got Fire, featuring Coco Sarah. Guns and Smoke, featuring 50 Cent and Eminem. I think that's the one a lot of people were anticipating. I expect a lot from that record. Sticky Situation, featuring Kane and Coco Sarah. Then we got Now or Never, featuring Dr. Dre and BJ the Chicago Kid. Gangsta Pose, featuring Them Joints, Sloan, Fat Money, and The Negotiator. Okay. Method Man's feature is going to be tough. I just heard Method Man's new song with Sky Zoo. We're going to talk about that next week, I'm sure, but Method Man spazzed out on there. Okay. The track, all right, obviously we're going to talk about the Eminem and 50 Cent one. I think that there's a lot to expect there with Snoop, 50, Eminem, and Dr. Dre on the track. We expect a whole lot there. That's going to be the one that everyone zeroes in on. So, I don't even know if it's even worth talking about at this moment. But the song that kind of stands out for a lot of people is Last Dance with Mary Jane, featuring Tom Petty and Jelly Roll. Like, what exactly is that going to sound like? It seems like with a Tom Petty feature, Jelly Roll feature, and Sting feature, we're not gonna get a whole lot of gangster shit, right? I'm surprised that we didn't see Anderson .Paak or October London as well. I mean, Kendrick Lamar as well, right? This is a very important album. Snoop and Dre, this is a very important album for Cali. I know Snoop's Long Beach, but this is a Compton thing. We didn't get any Dog Pound on here, which is fine. Like I said, sounds like they're trying to move away from the doggy style thing, but this is a time and an opportunity, if you will, for Dr. Dre to prove that he can produce a great album for Snoop and they can make great music together outside of what they made with the gangster shit. Because what Snoop has proven over his career is that he can actually make music outside of that vein. Like he was able to make Beautiful with the Neptunes. He was able to go out there and make some more make Sexual Seduction. He made those records. He made some things that were outside of what we knew Snoop Doggy Dogg to be. But Dr. Dre hasn't been along for that ride. Everything that we got from Snoop and Dre, it resembles, you know what I'm saying, some Cali hardcore shit. So this could be an opportunity to show that they can make some great music outside of that vein. Now, what I do hope is Dre doesn't try too hard. I hope we don't get overproduced records like on the Compton album. I think that album was overproduced. It was beat changes every second, which is cool. But from a listener's ear, and if you're really trying to listen to the record and get a vibe for the record, that really doesn't work for the listener. That's more of the producer pulling out tricks as opposed to, giving you great music to just really, really vibe to and that sticks with you. Now, the other thing that stands out in my mind is the fact that we got a whole lot of features on here. And I said at the beginning of this show right now is the fact that Dr. Dre and Snoop are the best producer and rapper combination in the history of hip hop, in my personal opinion. I would like to hear more of just them, more of just Snoop and Dre, or Dre on the boards, Snoop on the mic, or even if it's just them two on the mic. I would rather hear that than a bunch of features. This isn't really the project that I would like a bunch of features on per se. Like when Common and Pete Rock did their album, I would have been a little bit more disappointed if he had a whole bunch of features on there, but that was more about hearing those two together. Same thing with LL and Q-Tip. They didn't hit you with a slew of features. They actually came together and, built that album with just the two of those minds. So I don't really feel great about there being a bunch of features on here, but I'm gonna have to see how the features land, right? I'm gonna have to see if these are more chorus type features. I'm interested to know what the vibe is gonna be. Is Dr. Dre sonically gonna try to fit into the Tom Petty Jelly Roll world and the Sting world, or is he gonna bring them over into his world? So there's a lot of unknown variables here, even with the track list. I think the track list kind of confuses you a little bit more. I'm still excited about it. I'm still excited. And I do think that anytime that you get Snoop and Dre together, there's a possibility for album of the year. Like, really, they should be, if we're sitting here looking at this on paper, they should be the favorites for album of the year. So what's that thing on your head? I mean, it's Halloween. Are people in a bubble? Anyway, bring back G-Funk. I don't think that's happening. I mean, even with the Dog Pound album, it didn't even resemble the Dog Pound that we knew. But even with that being said, I'm like, yo, man, why can't the Dog Pound get a feature on this album? I thought the Method Man feature was interesting. Method Man's killing it right now. So, I mean, y'all know how I feel about Meth. He's the feature king. Rest in peace to Biggie Smalls. But outside of that, man, Method Man has some of the strongest features ever. Real Leonard Washington says that song that's on Madden 25 with Dre and Snoop is terrible. I'm not excited about this at all. If that's what the sound is, if that's the sound they're going for. All right. Well, I mean, we're just gonna have to see. We got December 13th. I wish it was gonna be November. Things in December kind of get lost in the sauce. I don't know if they're going to go out there and press up vinyl and have it where people making Christmas gifts. But if we're being honest, The Chronic came out in December, but Doggy Style is the one that came out in November. I'm expecting bangers from these guys. I don't know how you could expect anything else. It's like when Timberland and Missy get together. I mean, I don't think you're expecting them to make some B-sides. You're expecting them to make bangers. I'm expecting Snoop and Dre to come back together, make some bangers. They've done that even over this time period when they haven't been collaborating heavy and making a whole album together. You still got Bitch Please. You still got Lay Low. They got bangers together, but I, I'm expecting to see or hear the next wave of what we're going to get sonically in hip hop. Um, as Exhibit once said, never knew about the next level until Dre did it. And I just got through ranting and raving about Tyler the Creator's new album because sonically I felt like it was a forward step into what could possibly be the next page of hip hop sonics and hip hop production. But Dr. Dre's always been the catalyst of that, at least for the West Coast specifically, if we want to just, narrow it down to that. But it's a celebration, man. LA just won the World Series. LA is getting the next Olympics. And we got a track list for Snoop Dogg's new album, totally produced by Dr. Dre. And they gave the fans an Eminem and 50 Cent collaboration. Now, let's go to that song. It's called Guns and Smoke. Well, when you hear a title like that and you see the features that are on it and you know the people who are making it, I'm expecting a banger. I mean, I don't know what else anybody could expect. It's just not going to be a melancholy record. This sounds like it's going to be a banger. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, man, I don't know what else to say. I will say this. What people like Dr. Dre and Andre 3000 do by not coming out frequently, they make it very, very difficult to stand up to the pieces of work that they made beforehand. So when you're coming outside, and you're outside now, we're going to expect greatness. This is not going to be one of those things where it's like, I have no expectations for it. Yes, the expectations are through the roof. And hopefully they'll be able to deliver on that. I mean, this is Michael and Quincy coming together. You know what I'm saying? And this is an album that means something. And I will tell you this, man. I told you guys though, I've been one of the biggest naysayers when it comes to Dr. Dre actually releasing music that there probably is out there. But when he started talking about this album and he started talking about its completion, and I started thinking about what Snoop meant to the Olympics this current year and LA getting the Olympics next time, I was like, okay, well, this album actually makes sense. This might actually happen. And I was a believer that this was going to happen, and it's actually going to happen. And that's a special occasion. How many times have we actually gotten a Dr. Dre album? Because I'm going to say this is a Dr. Dre album because it's Snoop. You know what I'm saying? We've only got Snoop and Dr. Dre once. Well, twice. Let's count the Chronic. We got Doggy Style and the Chronic. That was 92 and 93. So in 2024, December 13th, we are going to be getting a new Snoop Dogg album produced by Dr. Dre. Now, I'm going to say this before we go because I just wanted to tap in real quick because I know everybody busy. They got their holiday to get to, and so do I. I'm not really a fan of the album cover. I see what they were doing with the album cover. But again, now this is where you get into the nuances of their original collaboration because they did this, right? Missionary, for those that don't know, is clearly an offshoot or it's influenced by their previous work in Doggy Style. So you're not going to be able to escape Doggy Style. And I believe that if you're going to do that, and if you're going to make this missionary thing a thing, I think the album cover has to be somewhat on that level of creativity. Not saying that you got to do a cartoon or anything, but that first album cover for Doggy Style was epic. And I think that even the fans could go out there. Um, Even the fans could probably go out there with their fan art and come up with something better than what they came with. I think that the album art, not to say that that's going to make the music because, you never want to judge a book by its cover, but that part was underwhelming. And hopefully the album won't be as underwhelming as this album cover because That's not an iconic album cover. My former co-host said something when we reviewed "Pray for Paris" by West Side Gun. That album cover, before you even press play, it lets you know you're about to hear something epic. And this album cover really doesn't do too much for me. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, Mike, do you expect more original beats or cheat codes known samples like the Marsha Ambrosia album? I would say this, Jermaine Johnson. I hope we don't get that. Based on what Dr. Dre's been doing recently, I wouldn't be surprised if we did. But if we get that on this album, and this album's complete, I know they ain't gonna go back and change anything. I know they ain't really listening to Mike D like that anyway. But if we get that on this album, I'm sorry, Dr. Dre's not our GOAT producer, man. I mean, we're gonna let you slide a few times, but that whole recycling beats that are samples, excuse me, that have already been proven and used in hip hop, you're better than that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're one of our best. So you can't go out there and use those cheat codes of, using the New York State of Mind sample and flipping it. I don't want to hear that from Dr. Dre and Snoop. And if you want to go back and flip, a Parliament sample that's never been heard on your level, or reworking something that may have been a little bit more abstract or obscure, fine. But I do not want to hear, Dr. Dre flipping Bonita Applebaum for this new album. That I don't want to hear. People say Dr. Dre was never to go. Okay, I mean, listen. This is where I stand on the Dr. Dre GOAT conversation as a producer. Do I think hand to hand, like you put a beat machine in front of him, or whatever, he's gonna outdo every great producer there is? No, I don't. But he's one of the few producers in hip hop that actually produces, how do I say it, in a traditional sense, in an arranging sense. I judge Dr. Dre by the product of what he's put out. If you go 20 songs deep in a verses, if you will, with Dr. Dre produced songs versus anybody else, it's going to be very tough for them to beat him. And that's why I say that, him being the GOAT producer is valid. End to end, career to career, if we talk about, the drop-offs, the help, and all of those things, yeah, I can understand someone saying he's not. But when it comes to that quality and the sonics and whatnot, Dr. Dre's tough to beat. And when you listen to his projects, there's a difference. There's a difference when you listen to The Chronic. It's a difference when you listen to 2001. This stuff sounds like the future. There's a difference when you listen to Doggy Style. That's why the standards here are very high. Now, somebody in the chat said that these guys are washed or whatever. You can feel that way. There's a young energy that comes with hip hop, and hip hop is all about young energy. But one thing I will say, and usually that's from the artist and the lyricist end and the MC end. One thing I will say, producers don't get old. If you have a mind for music and you know how to put together music and you're inspired by music, there's not really an age on that. Look at Pete Rock. You can make great beats or great production well into your 60s, 70s, or whatever. Like what Quincy Jones was like 50 something years old when he produced Thriller. Like it, being a producer, and now ask if Michael Jackson would have been able to make Thriller at 50 years old. That would have been a tall task to ask for any artist. But producers don't get old in that sense. Now, if you think Dre is washed, you're going to have to come with proof of that. And maybe you can say that the recycled samples are proof of that. But I don't think Dre being old is going to be an excuse for this album. And I think if we're talking about aging gracefully as an artist and as a public figure and as a rock star, if you will, not many people have aged as gracefully as Snoop. And so I think that Snoop's going to be fine on this record. Snoop still sounds great on stuff. This is going to come down to Dr. Dre and his greatness, to be honest with you. And it's it's not an easy task, And I one thing I will say before I go, win or lose, I respect the fact that Dr. Dre actually stepped in the ring. And I think that for a lot of our icons, it's easy to just say, you know what, let me just leave my legacy where it is and never try again. I respect the fact that whether this album sucks or it's a classic, I respect the fact that Dr. Dre said, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna go out there and see if me and Snoop Dogg can go out here and make a great album in our 50s and 60s. I'm gonna see, as opposed to just saying, you know what, I'm not gonna try. And I think that that's where some of our legends get propped up for not even trying and keep their in hip hop. We allow people to keep their number one spot based on something they did 25, 30 years ago without ever trying again. And somehow we knock the ones that continue to try, even if they're not at 100%. So I'm always going to give props to the fact that LL Cool J and Q-Tip did what they did this year. Common and Pete did what they did this year. Pete's always doing it. You know what I'm saying? Pete's always putting his hat in the ring. But for somebody like Dr. Dre, whose legacy is cemented, and Snoop as well, to go out there and put their hat in the ring, I got to give Dre props for that. So win or lose, I appreciate Dre. You don't have to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all know you're solidified. You don't have to go out there and make any more albums. But the fact that you're doing it in 2024, that shows you love the craft. That shows you appreciate your legacy, and that shows that you appreciate what you and Snoop have set ablaze. These guys are Death Row Records. Say what you want to say, man. These guys are the foundation of that Death Row iconic movement, man. I will say this. I think that the Chronic set it off, and Doggy Style kept it going. And when Pop came, that just solidified everything that was going on. So shout out to these guys, man. I'm looking forward to the album. There's going to be a countdown to this album, man. I don't know if, like I said, this is the most anticipated album for me personally since I have been in hip hop media, or at least on YouTube hip hop media. I'm excited. You know what I'm saying? And I want everybody to go out there and enjoy their Halloween. Freddie's dropping tomorrow. Oh man, we got a lot to talk about on Monday, man. Freddie is dropping tomorrow. Freddie's one of the most consistent. Yes, the Lotus Child album from Shay Noir is fire. Shay Noir is the best female MC in the game. Point blank, period. I don't care what anybody is saying. Ain't nobody outworked her. Ain't nobody outspit this woman right now. And she produced this whole album with the exception of one record. And I think the Static Selector did the other. You know, it's a shame that certain mainstream figures won't put or haven't put this artist on any of their music, especially the women. You know what I mean? Like, this right here, we can't even claim that, you know, we can't even claim that there aren't a variety of female MCs out there. I think that it looks very cliquish right now in hip hop, where you have the ones that make a certain type of music, they all click up together, but they ain't trying to work with the ones that are spitters. I mean, I would love to see Rhapsody and Megan work together. Why not? I think the closest that we got to that is when Premier brought Remy and Rhapsody together, but that's still similar, the same vein. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to Freddie. I think that Shay put out a dope album this year. I think that Tyler's album, you know, that's one of those, man, where it's like, he gave you that industry album. Y'all have heard me speak on industry albums before, and I mean that in the traditional sense, where it's like you got the records to the B-sides, you got the records that sound like they could be on the radio, and you got a cohesive album that takes you on a musical journey that I think everybody who's a hip-hop fan can appreciate something from it. But again, the story here is Snoop and Dr. Dre. That should be album of the year. Hit like and subscribe, guys. Nerd Rap is trash. Hit like and subscribe. I want everybody to enjoy their Halloween. If you're catching this on the playback, shout out to my LA people. Congratulations to LA on the victory. I was kind of rooting for the Yankees to get a comeback going on so that we could elongate the series a little bit, but I'm happy for the Dodgers. I'm happy for LA, and this is the perfect time to roll out this news. All right. Happy Halloween, guys. I'm going to holler at y'all on Monday, if not before. Yeah.